can't run before you can walk, right? So you bring them in, a year you go hard, you filter them into advertising campaign, you get your OpEx right, you increase your margin, conversion rate, and then you move and build a separate team, converting that 3x at a conversion rate of 50%. Nice foundational principles. All right, I'm gonna move off that now. By the way, protect this guy. Put a big bubble around him and look after him. Call these guys the $1 Million Club, right? They should be selling about $1 million worth of whatever. I don't know what the cost of your product is, what it may be, but you want to put a bubble around these guys. These guys need to be earning the big bucks. So if I said to you, these guys here should be on around 150 at a minimum to 250, that keeps them flowing really well. These guys should be on about 500. Now, I don't know your product or what your margins are, but it's pursuant to that, right? I'm saying, like, our product's actually not 1,000. It's probably around an average of about 4K. So these numbers that I'm talking about are pursuant to that, right? So, you know, our biggest brand, Textile Academy, will sell a product on average for about that. So that becomes attainable. Because this guy will go into a company and sell 20 things to one person, and this guy will go to a consumer and sell one thing, because that came off the back of the marketing strategy. Now, you probably wouldn't run a B2B marketing campaign on Meta. You'd certainly run it on Google to a point, but LinkedIn may be a more appropriate way to deliver that. That platform's changing dramatically at the moment, so I think there's a lot of lift and a lot of benefit in using LinkedIn over the next few years. Cool, okay, I'm gonna get off that. I'm gonna go to this one, number 4. Foundations. As a sales agent, I used to be a sales agent. I worked in a 40-foot container with a flickering fluorescent light above my head, and I'd cold call out of the phone book, believe it or not, or out of an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a piece of paper. They just plonked it in front of me. I was selling recruitment. It's a very difficult product to sell because you have to sell it based on trust and confidence that you can do the job, right? But the thing is, the customer never paid us up front. So here's another model, is that they paid us on succession, so on completion of the job, right? So all of the faith was in the ability of the sales team to deliver a product to a customer that we didn't get paid for until it was finished. Like, that sort of doesn't happen anymore. Like, if you were to get someone to come and pour concrete for your driveway, you sort of have to pay them before they do it. In the old days, you paid them sort of after, in the old days, you know. So if you're looking at foundational principles of building that out, here's what you have to do, say as a cold call agent, is, actually I'm gonna jump this thing quickly. I'm gonna move to number 5. I want to talk about, I think this is pretty critical. As you're building this business out, you need to understand what your algorithm is. Your algorithm will dictate your success. What's an algorithm? If you don't know, you should Google it, because it's pretty important in business. Businesses are run by algorithms and models, by the way. People think they're run by products. Great products and great marketing and great branding, well, that's bullshit. They're run by algorithms. The marketing, the branding is a byproduct of an algorithm. What's an algorithm? An algorithm is a sequence of events and a formula that delivers a result. That's what an algorithm is. That result is normally underpinned by that word success. So if you're selling a product, say it's a cap, right? We sell these Business Beats caps online through our merch store. You should go buy one, by the way. That's underpinned by an algorithm. Why? Because we sort of know that if we run the numbers and we spend X amount in marketing and what platform we put it on, what are we doing? We're doing research. That research is underpinned by numbers, so metrics. The metrics create the formula. In the formula is the conversion rate. The conversion rate delivers the sales. The business is actually run to exactly the same methodology. And what some founders do is what they do is they run blindly through the forest like Bambi, all right? Chasing butterflies. And they shouldn't do that. There is a line to follow and an algorithm. So if you do the research first, you figure it out in year 1. This gives you all your data. You can build the algorithm. Here's my algorithm. I learned this over many years of cold calling and doing lead inquiry over the phone. And I did this as well. I actually did all three of these in my working career. I haven't worked for many people, but this is what I did. I did cold calling first, then I went to this stage, and then I put my hand up and became a B2B person for a company who was struggling. And the office I moved into they had 16 offices. They put me in an office that was in a particular city that was number 14 out of 16. And I think in just over 12 months, they were the second most successful office in the country because of the algorithm I applied to this space. Brought on millions of dollars worth of clients in a very short amount of time. Because I understood this. Here's my algorithm. If I make 100 calls, I'll speak to 10 people, which will convert to 5 appointments, which will convert to 2 sales. In every company that I've founded or been involved in, or am a co-founder of, and in my job as a full-time employee, that always ran true. If I call 100 people, I'll speak to 10 of those people, 10% conversion rate for pickup. It happened in cold, and it also happened here. And it also happened here. I'll book 5 appointments off those 10 calls, and I'll sell 2 things. Here, I'll sell to 2 people 6 products. Here, I'll sell 2 products to 2 people. And that has always worked for me. So if I was smart and I was a sales agent, this is the golden number for me. So if I dropped that number, that doesn't happen. If I was getting paid $1,000 for a sale, here I'm earning $2,000 every week as long as I commit to that number of 100 outbound calls. As soon as that drops, my income goes down. And that has nothing to do with branding. It's got nothing to do with marketing. And it's got nothing to do with emotions. It's an algorithm. And it works every single time. So when you build your team here as a young founder, or an old founder, founders can be old too. If you understand the principles of that, you actually outline that principle here and build upon it as you move into year 3. So this is year 3, by the way. The business development guy doesn't come on till year 3. Because you can't put him, he won't come here because you don't have anything for him to leverage. You have to build that, and then he comes in. But he has to work to that principle, and so do all of these guys. Because if you bring them in and you base your financials, so your forecast, your targeting, and your balance sheet is based on this algorithm, and you bring these guys into the business and they don't do that, your balance sheet falls over. Every time. So if you run it to that, all you have to do is multiplication. So, okay, so now I'm earning $2,000. I'm selling $2,000 worth of product with that one agent. God, I wonder how I sell $10,000 worth of product. Right? You get 5 agents. So you get 5 agents, and that turns into 10. Wonder how I get to $20,000. Okay. Maybe I'll get 10 agents. And you get to 20K. See what I'm saying? But if that doesn't work, that will fall over. And what happens is they don't get the money that they want to earn, and they all leave. There's a few underlying principles that you have to follow. That is my most important algorithm. Build a business to an algorithm, not on anything else. And then layer on your marketing, layer on your avatars, layer on your cold call script, layer on your business development guy, layer on all these things, but underpin it with that number, because that'll never let you down. And then you manage to it, right? You should manage on metrics first, and then manage on skill sets second, and alignment with character, depending on what your product is. This guy's a different avatar to these guys. And in fact, this guy's a different guy to this guy, he's a different guy to that guy, or girl. So you have to figure that out, right? But if they can do that, that number is assured. That's what the business books tell you. That's what I've done for the last 120 years. That was a joke. but it's always worked for me. And every time I breached this as a sales agent, when I was here and I didn't make 100 calls a day, it fell over. Now here's the great thing about it. Step 2 of the algorithm is that when you build a pipeline, that number comes down. So I no longer need to do that. So what I do is I only need to make 80 a day, 80 calls a day. Why? Because I've built a pipeline of clients. We might talk about that on the next episode. Is that when you build a pipeline, that's what you want to get to. There's 2 things to notice here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll use this red. Pipeline, so critical. So critical. It's one of the most important things. And then what you're doing is you're creating a database of 25,000 people, right? And then you're moving into lead inquiry. Like, these are the sorts of things that make sense to me. And then you're building the algorithm. So you're cold calling, you want to build a database, you want to push them into lead inquiry, you want to set your algorithm up and then build your pipeline. Those are the key things that you want to do. Because what happens when you build your pipeline is your agents have to do less calls for more money. And why do they get more money? Because they have a pipeline. That means they're generating relationships, they're getting referrals off those relationships. So even your B2C guys are going, oh, now they're getting 2 deals because they've sold to a wide amount of people. By the way, you won't get referrals with 10 clients. You have to have like 500, right? And then you'll find that you can start to ask for referrals and they'll start to come through. So you're still doing the same algorithm. Your pipeline's generated, so you can drop this number, your call rate can go down, but your income goes up. And then over time, this number goes down to say 50. It's never going to go to 0. It can't, because that's the action that creates the revenue. But you could get it to 50 if you were smart. By the way, this guy here, he's only ever making that amount of calls because this is more relationship focused. This is more instantaneous. Call a person, nurture them for 14 days, close a deal, move to the next one. Because that's what the marketing campaign dictates. That's a completely different model for a completely different conversation. But, so what you're doing is you're compounding your pipeline to earn more revenue for less effort in the algorithm. That's what a good agent will do. They'll understand that. So if you have an agent who's 2 years into it, 3 years into it, and they're still doing 100 calls, and they're still doing that, they haven't built their pipeline properly. Or they're not leveraging their pipeline. They just keep doing the same thing. You have to train your agents to move into pipeline management. Pipeline management was one of the most critical things for a sales agent, because that slows down the lowest converting action, which is the call, and works on the highest converting action, which is the relationship. I'll do that in a separate, I might talk about that in a separate app, because pipeline management and strategy is so critical to get right, and there's so much in it. So I'll cover that off in another episode. So that's sort of the basis of sales. I'm going to quickly finish on foundations, which I didn't do before. I always ask agents, if I was going in to train a team, I always get a vibe for the agents, right? I try and figure out who they are. There's normally 2 avatars for agents. You've got your closers and you've got your sellers. Your closers are normally the aggressive, assertive type people who don't really want to talk a lot. They just want to make money. They're very focused on economics. Great guys to have around. They're very unemotional, and they'll close deals. People hang up on them all the time, but they don't care about that, right? Like, there's that famous story about Babe Ruth, right? He struck out more than any other baseball player in the history of baseball, but they only remember him for the wins and the home runs. So that's what those guys are like. They sort of do that. And then you've got your more emotional type, sort of B-class sales people, right? Who will sell in this market, but will find it very challenging to move to this market. They'll sort of never really get down to a 50 calls a day rate, because they're not assertive enough to build a pipeline and ask the hard questions, especially with referrals, right? It takes a lot of confidence to ask for a referral from a pipeline client. You know, they bought a product from you, they've got confidence in you and trust in you. It's the highest leverage point for sales, but most agents won't do it because of confidence. So, that dictates what your training strategy looks like. But just to go back to what I was saying, so if I was training a sales team, I understand those two types of avatars, right? And there's one question I always ask first. So if you're doing cold calling or you're doing lead inquiry, you're doing outbound calls, I always say to myself, out of the 10 people or 20 people that I'm training, when was the last time you practiced your profession? They go, shit, what do you mean? I mean, if you're a professional sports player, you have to practice, right? Yeah, got it. Artist, you have to practice. Musician, you have to practice. Business owners have to read. It's a form of practice. When was the last time you practiced? And 99.9% of the time they go, I don't. You have to practice. If you want to be a professional salesperson working in any of these categories and you don't do that, practice, I'll write the full word. I don't want to make it easier. Practice, T-I-C-E. If you don't practice, it all sort of falls away. You normally get stuck into this 100 calls a day every day for the rest of your life. And then you'll burn out and you just sort of give up. Because only practice will get you here to build a pipeline successfully that moves you here. And if you don't do it, quite frankly, it's lazy. Because if you could earn $250,000, $500,000, why would you not practice? Laziness. Or you don't believe that you can earn that sort of money. And in that case, you shouldn't be in this job in the first place. Go and work at McDonald's. No pressure there. It's a very pressured job, by the way. But if you want to earn the big bucks, you've got to put in the work. It doesn't come for free, right? And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be super hard. I know, I've done it. I've worked 100 hours a week for years, in fact, through this model, right? And if you're not prepared to do that, just don't start. Because if you want to bitch and whinge about all the hard work and, oh my God, I'm not getting to where I should be, well, that's on you. It's no one else's fault, right? So, because if you're not doing that, and most agents don't expect to earn good money. You'll normally sit around here, which, hey, if you want to be average, that's fine. People can live on that. It's okay. You should do that. Because in this model, what will happen is when you break it down, top performers will sit here in this category, right? And the rest of them will sit on this category, 150 a year. So there's not a lot of room in here because not many people can do it, right? Now these are the guys, these top performers in that space there, they do that, they practice, they work hard. This one here is educate. Practice and education are two different things, by the way. So here, this guy is learning about the product. He's learning about the algorithm. He's trying to understand, what do I need to do to earn that sort of money? 100, 500 or 250, what do I need to do? They're writing it down, they're trying to figure it out. And they're trying to crack the code, right, which is here. So they're educating themselves about the principles of what they do, plus what they're doing is they're educating themselves about the market and the product. Because if you're cold calling and you're educated, God, this gets so much easier. Because you can talk to the customer on their level. If you're just a sales guy who's got some sales hacks, it's very difficult to run this game. A little bit easier here because they inquired, so the pressure's off. But if you call someone out of the blue and you have no idea what you're talking about because you haven't practiced or educated yourself, this becomes very, very fucking difficult. So you should remember that. The next thing is personality. That's a funny one. I crack up about it because I find a lot of salespeople who are in these models, I always say, can an accountant sell? And the answer is yes, absolutely they can. Anyone can. The question you should ask though is, can they do it long term? And the answer is no. Why? Because it's not their character or their personality. Most people fall into sales because they've got nothing else to go to. They're normally uneducated, year 10, year 12. They don't hold a degree, so they're not formally educated at a degree level. And they fall into it, right? Because these types of businesses and these done-for-you businesses recruit anybody and they run the numbers game. They churn them. Like churn. So So they might have, and retention's really poor here. So they might have an agent for 6 months and make 20 or 30 grand out of them. Then they'll move them on and bring the next one in. Like lambs to the slaughter, right? They filter it and then they put the good guys into this model, lead inquiry, and keep the bad ones here. And then the really good guys, they escalate to here, right? And what they do is they look at their personality and their character type or archetype, right? Because again, yes, an accountant can sell, but they will not sell long term. Why? They'll burn out, they'll get stressed, they'll start to feel anxiety because it's not in their nature to do it. So you got to think about that. Sorry to drop in on the video, just 10 seconds. What we're trying to do is get to 1 million subs this year, 1 million subs. We're at almost 250,000. The YouTube fire-breathing unicorns want us to get to 1 million, so we'd really appreciate your support. We've got lots of things to give away this year. We've got some great interviews coming, and your support will help us achieve all of that sort of stuff. So I want to say thank you, appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, and let's get back to the video. So if you're going to move into sales and be a professional sales executive, do you have the right character archetype for it? Do you feel it, right? You should feel it here in your gut, whether you can do cold calls and get told to piss off, you know, every third or fourth call and people hanging up on you, because that's very challenging for most people. That's why this quarter, these guys don't care about it because they just think about the money, but these guys do. So when you're building the business, think about that. You're filtering people to bring them into this space. Right, so you can increase your conversion of 15% by 3xing your sales. This also makes money because you're converting at 10% in their inquiries, so you convert them at a higher rate. This is the challenging one, but I kind of like it because if you've got no money and you want to start a business, you just do that. Right? Don't write the processes, don't worry about the policies. If you want to start a business and you've got $0 in the bank, just go and sell something. Like all the experts say, just sell one thing. And then you build upon it, right? The last thing I want to talk about is soft skills. This thing here, soft skills. So that's attached to personality. So when you're practicing and you're educating yourself about the market, about the product, you're starting to understand what your personality is. By the way, you might pull the pin on this point. You might go, you know what, this is just not for me. That's okay, no harm, no foul. You should go and do something else. Because long term, it's very hard for you to be successful at something that you naturally don't like. Very difficult. No matter how good the people are, you'll still be unsuccessful. Because you have to go home and sleep with that. And then you have to wake up with it. And that's what kills people the most, is that it doesn't fit their DNA or their ethos, right? So be honest to yourself about it. And it's okay not to be great at this, because there's probably something else out there for you. But remember, this is sales. Like, how do you get into that top quadrant in sales? So you got to understand what your soft skills are. In sales, if this was a outbound call business, and it is, that's the avatar we're talking about today, you have to have a couple of things. You have to have curiosity. It's one of my very first things I look for in a person, especially a salesperson. Are they naturally curious? People go, well, that doesn't make sense. Wouldn't you look for experience? No. I would never look for experience in a salesperson. A, the information they're presenting to is probably not that true and accurate, right? They've probably lied. Will people lie to you? Yes, all the time. Will their resume be accurate? In most cases, no. So I'm looking for character, right? I'm looking for soft skills. Are they naturally curious? What does that mean? Are they asking the right questions? Before they come to the interview, did they go to the website and do some research on you? Did they look at your brand personally? Did they know what's happening in the market? When you go to an interview process, this is how a customer sees it too, by the way. When a customer or say you're a business owner interview process, a couple of things happen in that exchange of communication. The human brain in a conversation will go, are they congruent with my needs and my communication? So when you're talking to a customer, they're listening for you to be congruent with what they're saying so they can get you a result. All the time. That's a normal human dialogue conversation as well. That's what people look for. If I'm in an interview, if I ask a question, are they providing me with the right answer? And are they asking questions off the back of that? It's natural curiosity. The one thing you don't want to do if you're in this business is get on the phone to a client and talk at them, not with them. Because they will hear it. Customers are very savvy. They're smarter than you think they are. And they can hear someone who's just trying to push a product on them or who's genuinely there to help them. So curiosity is something that I look for. Second thing I look for in soft skills is work ethic. These are my 3 top things, by the way. So can they do 60, 70 hours a week here to get my business to here and even to get themselves to here, right? Because if they can't do that, this won't work. Because to do 100 calls sometimes takes 10 hours a day. To do 10 appointments sometimes takes 10 hours a day. So if you want to work 6 or 7 hours a day, you know, I don't know if the numbers will stack in that algorithm. So I'm looking for a person who's got natural work ethic. So they understand that to earn that type of money, that they know it's going to be hard and that they have to put the work in. Will a sales agent in an interview tell you that? Yes, they will. Is it the truth? In most cases, it's never the truth. Because here's what will happen. They'll do it for 30 days and then they stop. Because they think short term, they think, oh, if I can do it for 30 days, I should be making so much money, I can drop back my hours. But that never works. This is a 90-day, by the way, the success to get to this is a 90-day entry point. Right? 90 days, it's 3 months. It's not going to happen in 30. The only one who can get there in 30 is a guy like this. And remember, that's the smallest quadrant on the board. Smallest quadrant. So you got to think, okay, do I have work ethic? Or the person I'm recruiting as a young business owner, am I recruiting people to run this model for me? Do they have what it takes to put the hours in? There's lots of practical stuff around that. Where do they live? Have they got a side hustle? Are they working a night shift as well? You know, do they have a partner? Do they have children? All those sorts of things come into play. So you have to ask that. Lastly, I look for is commitment. That's my number 3 go-to. There's lots of different things in that. So many different things. The first 2 will dictate where that lands, by the way. You'd say, oh, okay, well, if they're prepared to work, well, you know, you're not asking them whether they're prepared to work hard. You're qualifying them whether they can. Don't ever ask someone, are you prepared to work 60 hours a week? What do you think they're going to say? Yes, every single time. You have to qualify if they've done that before. Give me an example, Mr. Candidate. Let's say we're interviewing Matt Damon. Matt Damon, give me an example where you worked 80 hours a week for 12 months. Because I'm going to call that person, I'm going to see if you're lying to me. That's how assertive I normally get in the interview process. Because you've got to qualify that so well. Because if they're lying, that one there, by the way, is your character judgment. That one there, you have to do practical applications, activities to get it right. Ask them where they did it, go and qualify that. Commitment also is a soft skill that your character has to determine with the person that you interview. So how do you think someone is committed? Big question, super big fucking question. It's a tough one, right? How do I know that the person I'm about to invest all my time into and depend on to build my business in the first 12 months is committed? Man, you get that wrong, you're screwed. This is how hard business is, right? That's why I say, if you can get to $3 million or even $1 million, you've just qualified your master's in business and administration. That's how hard this is. There's so many things that you have to juggle. That's why most people are not business owners, by the way, because this is super difficult. So, but how do you bring someone into your business that you feel is committed, right? There's one thing they're going to commit to, and it's not you. They'll say to you, oh, I love the business. I really believe in the product. Well, if you're in startup, there is no product to believe in. Bullshit. There's only one place they have commitment to, and that's this number. That one there, and that one there, and that one there. They are committed to themselves every single time. They are never committed to anything else. So all you have to do is show them the model, the algorithm, that gets them to these 3 numbers. And if they believe it, they will be committed to it. Now, if you're in startup, it's really hard to do that because you don't have a proven sales system that's worked that you can show them. But now it's going to come down to how you communicate it. And if you can't communicate it with that, an algorithm, they won't believe you because it's just your opinion. But if you were in the interview and go, hey, look, I've worked out an algorithm that can get you earning this number in under 12 months. I can get you here in 24 months. And in year 3, I can get you to that number by using this algorithm. Now that's how you do it. So you've got to be very focused on that because that's really what brings in good people through this funnel. Complicated, huh? It's actually not really. Because once you get into the flow of this first year, the second year happens organically. These guys identify themselves. That's how you 2x your revenue year on year to say get to 3 million. Let's say that's 1 million, that's 2 million, and that's 3. Now, if you can do that, your success rate for business continuity goes up. But the first 3 years is the hardest. So I've got a course coming out, right? It's called 1 to 3, which has all this broken down into segments and assessments. So keep an eye out for that. I'm still writing that program, but it's basically this whole mess on the whiteboard in one program. But that's it. So I hope that helped. But we'll put some notes in a fact sheet. We'll do that, yeah. So you can download that. So we'll make some sense of this for you. God, that's a messy whiteboard. We'll make some sense of this for you and break these down into 3 categories. So if you're in business and you're starting out, good luck. This works. That algorithm has never failed me in 3 companies, or actually in 4, this one as well. So underpin it. So look at these red sections, and we might put that in the fact sheet, see if we can do that. So we hope we get some value out of that. Appreciate you joining. Please click subscribe. We'd appreciate it. We're trying to get to 1 million subs, and we'll see you next time.